Okay, I'm Cathy Erickson with YGAN, and I'm pleased to be hosting another episode of the RSCK EdTV. And here with me today in the beautiful Rockstar Suite of the Ambassador Hotel is Traci Bodley from Keller Williams and Tyson Bean with Berkshire Hathaway PenFed Realty Home Services.
You got it.
How do I do?
Nailed it.
Okay, all right. That was the hardest thing I have to do today.
Nailed it.
Welcome and thanks for being with me today to share. And we're going to talk today about buyers, working with buyers, and I'll just jump right in. Our
Great.
first question today is, where do you find buyers? Tyson, we'll start with you.
Okay, sure. I've been in the business about 10 years, so a lot of the buyers that I receive are coming from a referral source. And here in the last year, we've actually started subscribing for online lead generation. So we've found that that's been a pretty successful avenue for acquiring clients or referral sources that we wouldn't have normally had access to. So that's been a benefit to us.
Okay. And Traci?
And I'm kind of the same. I've been doing it for 6 years, and I have a lot of referrals. So I really try to focus on my referral building and keep in touch with my past clients. So I get a lot of referrals. I don't do as many open houses anymore, but when I do, of course, we get those. And that's probably my main source. I think it's important to stay in contact with your clients so you can get those referrals.
So if you were giving advice to a new agent, what would you say?
I would suggest, of course, open houses, because that's a big source for buyers. And then I would suggest that they really focus on their sphere of influence. So people they know, whether they've obviously haven't sold houses to them yet, but really talk to them, and they're going to be a huge source in your first couple of years to get referrals.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Open houses is a great way to start to meet interested buyers, be familiar with homes, potentially pick up sellers. I would even take it probably one step further and say that if you could find a niche that's not being serviced, that would be one to get into. We do a lot of relocation with my property management business, so we can work on behalf of renters or buyers. So finding a niche, I think, is pretty advantageous as well.
Yeah.
So once you find a buyer, how do you qualify them? Do you conduct buyer counseling sessions?
Yes, definitely. I first of all discuss if they've been pre-qualified with a lender. Very important, and I explain to them. I tend to work a lot with first-time home buyers, so you're having to walk them through it anyway. So I make sure that they've been pre-qualified. A lot of times they don't understand that part of it. They think they have to buy a house or find a house first. So we talk about that importance, and because that's going to be the most important thing. So getting them pre-qualified with the lender, and then we talk about what they're wanting as far as their property goes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For real estate agents, our biggest asset is our time, and we don't want to spend a whole lot of time showing unqualified buyers homes or showing homes that may not meet their needs. So I think the counseling session with the buyer is a great way to identify those objectives and identify what the expectations are through the course of the contract or the home shopping process. My approach is a little more informal, I guess. Since we do online lead generations, a lot of that, you kind of have to get a pulse of what's going on over the phone. Because some of these leads that come in, they're looking for properties to rent right off the bat instead of homes that are available. So just getting a better feel for what they're looking for on the phone. Are they working with a lender? Have they been pre-qualified? And then I might go ahead and pass their information along to the lender at that time. And then once we get that pre-qualification, then we'll go ahead and take the next step.
So you're basically doing your counseling sessions on the phone rather than in person, if it comes through that?
Yeah, I would say a majority of our referral business has been from online leads this year, so we've kind of referred to capturing all that information on the phone, preliminary to meeting.
Right, okay. So how do you manage a buyer's expectations?
I think from the very beginning, you have to set expectations as well on our end, and let them know what's realistic. So, they're looking for 5 acres, a 5-bedroom house for $100,000. That's probably not going to be as realistic. So I set expectations early. They tell me what they're looking for, and I show them. Sometimes if we're doing it in person, I will show them, this is what's available right now. If we're doing it on the phone, then I set them up on a search immediately, which I do that anyway, and so they can see. And sometimes they're not going to be ready for like 6 months, or I've had people a year out, but I set them on a search right away. And I tell them, we're not going to go visit the homes right now because you're not ready, but I want you to know what's out there and the price ranges ahead of time so that you know what to expect when we're ready. So I think setting that at the very, very beginning is going to save us time, as Tyson was talking about, in the end. So
Yeah, just like she said, it's really about setting the expectations on the front end so the consumer, the buyer knows, what is going to happen throughout that process. If they're not qualified to purchase right now, then, give them information so that when they are ready to buy or start looking, they know what is available, they kind of know what kind of feelers to put out there.
Right.
And sometimes you have to tell them things that they may not want to hear. They may not want to hear that they can't get that property for the price they want. But I think they're more apt to be happy with you when you are real with them, rather than just tell them what they want to hear to have a buyer.
Right.
Hoping they'll find that one.
One of the best takeaways I got from the car convention a few weeks ago was, and I forget which speaker it was that said it, but she said that when she meets with buyers the first time, she tells them, we are going to find you a home with deficiencies that you can live with.
That's a good
exactly
one.
right.
Because everybody seems to have in their mind that their house is going to be just perfect.
Yeah, that it's going to be, a 50-year-old new house.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen.
Right.
So once you get buyers through the process, you find them a house, you get to closing, all that. What's your follow-up process? How do you follow up with them? What do you like to do to stay in touch? What kind of frequency? For how long? Obviously, you've both created a great system for this because you have referrals that continue to come in. But if you could just maybe give us a little bit of that.
I use, I contact them like a week or two later. How's everything going? Are you needing anything? That kind of thing. And then I set them up on a program where we send them a newsletter-ish kind of, it's not always about real estate, just normal living stuff, once a month in the mail. And then 2 weeks later, we follow that up with an email that's along the same line. So it might be, the flyer might be something about protecting yourself from identity theft. And then the email is something along those lines. So that's just an example. So they get contact from me twice a month. And then I go through my database and I call them at least once a quarter. And in addition to that, we do little things like Facebook communications, and we will also, our office does a thing where we'll send out postcards for free cupcakes at Valentine's Day, or donuts for dads, Father's Day, just different things like that. And so we take care of that too. So it's little touches like that, and then we always have a customer or a client appreciation event at least once a year. So that's how we stay in communication.
Yeah, that's great. So that's definitely a lot more hands-on approach than what I have. I do a newsletter quarterly that they'll get a publication, and it's from their real estate agent Tyson, and we have a contact management database that will send out emails just as if it's like we just had Halloween, so happy Halloween, and that'll go out to all of my clients or potential clients, friends, family, and it's just an easy way to stay in touch with them. Secondarily, with not even knowing you're doing it, and I will get responses back from these clients. Hey, happy Halloween to you as well. How are you and the family doing? And then so we'll continue that communication. So we're still kind of in the back of their mind without being in their face. So it's a good approach for us, and it's worked for us.
Good. So obviously we're in a market where multiple offers are very common. How do you help buyers understand a multiple offer situation when they're competing with other offers for a property that they've written an offer on?
Well, again, setting expectations early is very important. Talking to them, telling them what kind of market we're in. We do have a low inventory, and so there's a possibility that you will also be bidding against someone else. You need to come in strong. This is not the time that you give a low offer if it's not necessary. And so just setting those expectations from the very beginning before we ever get to the house that they're gonna make an offer on. I think that's very important. So just telling them, here's my experience in the season we're in, and then go from there. So.
Yeah, exactly what Traci said. There's some buyers out there that can't handle the multiple offer situation.
Right.
So if it's something that's been on the market just a few days and it looks like it's priced appropriately, you could show it to them and let them know that there are potentially going to be multiple offers, and they may decide at that point, let's just kind of cool things down, let's take our time and kind of ease into one that there may be a little more negotiating room. So back to just setting those expectations on the front end and have those conversations on this is the course of actions we need to take.
It's not the time to ask for everything in the kitchen sink.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
You might have to give a little and give a little more.
Yes.
Give up a little and give a little more.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think buyers have gotten so used to asking for the closing costs to be paid. And I tell them from the very beginning, I know you will probably get advice that you should ask for the closing cost. And here's what I'm going to tell you, that's not a guarantee. Sellers do not have to pay that. So I want you to, keep that in mind when you're ready to make your offer. If you want them to pay the closing costs, we may have to adjust the price. So, I think that has been a big obstacle in this market, because they just think now that sellers are supposed to pay the closing cost.
Right.
And so we've had to re-educate people and explain to them how that's gonna work.
Right.
So, and the other options to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Those roles have kind of changed, that
Yeah.
sellers have the control of the situation and
Right.
buyers want the deal. It's not uncommon now with the market we have that buyers have to include their closing costs on top of what the asking price is, so the seller's net is the same.
Right.
Especially in the multiple offer situations.
Right. And then also educating them about appraisals too.
Right.
That if we're gonna add that, we need to make sure it appraises, so, here's what might happen if it doesn't. So, I think the whole key to working with anybody, sellers or buyers, is setting expectations early, and education and communication.
Yeah.
So, and I always tell them, anytime you have any questions, if somebody's giving you advice, especially first-time home buyers, they are getting advice from everywhere,
Qualified
friends,
and
family
unqualified.
that bought a house 20 years
Yeah.
ago, this is how it happened.
Right.
And, so we have to tell them, this is how it is now. And it's different in different markets. So, if your advice is coming from a different market, even Kansas City or, someplace close by, it's a different market. So, just education. I think we have to put ourselves as a teacher in our role, so.
Yeah, we're the professionals, and
Yeah.
and they're looking to us for that guidance, and we need to
if they can tune out all of the other
Noise.
that's going on,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
like you said, in the background,
Yeah.
friends, family, coworkers, yeah,
Mhm.
everybody has an experience.
Yes,
Exactly.
and no situation is ever gonna be exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're gonna have different buyers, different sellers, so it's gonna be different, so.
Well, that's all of my questions, but if, do you have anything else you want to share in closing that you could, give another agent as a bit of advice?
I just think, just stay in communication and always be listening for cues for buyers. I picked up buyers at the cell phone store. I picked up sellers at the I always put out there that I'm a real estate agent somehow. I picked up one the other day when I was getting tires. So, he mentioned something about he had some investment properties, and I said, do you need a real estate agent? Well, yes, I do. And so, you just always have to look for those opportunities.
And be
put
wearing
it
your
out
realtor
there.
hat.
Yes,
Mhm.
wear your realtor
Yeah.
hat all the time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just being a good listener, listening
Yes.
for those cues, because you might be at the supermarket and somebody's having a conversation about, listing their home or buying a home,
Yes.
and that's when you can kind of chime in and say, oh, do you work with anybody, or,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the business, if you guys are looking for
Yeah.
somebody to help.
Mhm.
So I think just being a good listener is really what it takes to be a good buyer's agent.
And don't ever prejudge people, because I know I picked up buyers that I never thought, that I knew from my life somewhere, and they would call me and say, hey, I'm gonna buy a home. And I'm like, really? So, don't prejudge. So make sure you stay in communication with everybody you know, and don't flood your Facebook feed with real estate all the time, because they'll turn that off, but every now and then put the successes. So excited that I got to close with this awesome couple today, or, look at this great home that we looked at, or something like that. Just every now and then, so that they know you're in business and that you're working.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for tuning in. And thank you to the ambassador for letting us use the Rockstar Suite. We
It's awesome.
want to come back here, don't we?
Yes.
It's a good place.
It's very nice.